What's good? Welcome back to On Texas Football. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday night. Welcome into the Tuesday night live stream. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel. We'll be taking your questions, entertaining, informing, and otherwise keeping you occupied on the Tuesday night live stream here at On Texas Football. It's brought to you by Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise. Give a shout out to Andy and our advertisers throughout the evening. CJ, how are you doing on a Tuesday night? I'm excited because we're closing in on the start of baseball.
Yeah, we are. What is it? 3 days away? I'm pumped, Jeff. I know you are as well. It's a Tuesday night. There's not a lot going on in the middle of February. There is a pretty good slate of college basketball going on. Miami, North Carolina, Baylor, BYU. I know Auburn's got a big matchup tonight as well. So, look, I've got my eye on what's to come for March Madness. Jeff, I talked about it a little bit. BYU is not winning a national title, but I know that's not what we're here to talk about. I just got a little frustrated watching them tonight. So that's my college basketball take of the evening.
No, I like AJ DeBonsa, but we've talked about NBA prospects in college basketball now. When Darren Peterson is right, I don't think there's a better player in the country right now. It's probably why he's going one overall. And we'll see if Dalen Swain gets himself into that first round mix, gets him a guarantee. Sean Miller and company, CJ, I don't know if this is good or bad for them because they've got finally the whole week off. They played Ole Miss on Saturday. You were at Moody Center for that one, emotionally charged game. Chris Beard coming back. They don't take the floor again until this coming Saturday in Columbia against Missouri. So I don't know if it's good for them to get off their feet and get a little rest, but I don't know, man. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a little bit of rust on Saturday that they had to knock off.
Yeah, no, good point. I actually asked Sean Miller about that. You have kind of a mini bye in the middle of the week. What does that look like for your team? He said, look, I think it's great, right? We finally get some rest. And he said, where we would normally have a game, I'm probably just going to give these guys the entire day off. Don't even get up on your feet, sit on the couch, just rest and hang out, try to get re-energized. They have 7 games left, 3 at home, 4 on the road. And to your point, Jeff, it's all about making sure that each game matters the most that it possibly can moving forward. Texas above 500 in SEC play for the first time this year. So all in all, sitting in a much better spot than where they were probably 3 weeks ago or so.
Vic Schaefer and the Texas women have long been above 500 in conference play. They got a big win last night. It's interesting schedule for them because they had the game in Arkansas that the ice storm wiped out. So they've got, I don't know, CJ, what is it, like 4 games in 10 days coming up? They played Kentucky last night, which the Super Bowl actually messed up the women's basketball schedule because you don't want, why schedule something the day of the Super Bowl? It's going to kill your attendance and your viewership most likely. The Kentucky game gets moved to Monday. Then they go to Vanderbilt on tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow night they play at Vanderbilt, 5th-ranked Vanderbilt. Then they're going to go play Tennessee this weekend. So, yeah, it's the opposite of what Sean Miller's group is going through. Vic Schaefer's group is going through right now. Softball's in full swing already, and baseball starts on Friday. And we'll talk about some Texas football here on the show as well. Always welcome your comments, questions, anything you got to throw at us. Go ahead and throw it. Super chats, as always, jump to the front of the line. CJ, got a couple of things I do want to make sure we cover, though. Jersey numbers. Yeah. Love this. Love to see jersey numbers getting assigned. We get questions about this. I know the guys got questions about it on Coffee and Football yesterday and today. Hey, when's the roster going to get updated? Well, usually we don't see like the full-on official roster update till like right before, some days even day of start of spring ball, but at least we've got some jersey numbers. So if you're so inclined to go buy a jersey, get one of those custom jerseys of one of these freshman Longhorns, you at least know what number you can go get now.
Yeah, we got an update on a handful of guys so far. Derek Cooper, of course, will be wearing number 5. Well, the last 5-star running back at the University of Texas who ended up in the number 5 ended up doing pretty well, Jeff. I'll go ahead and say that. So lofty expectations coming in. Of course, for me at least, and this might be for, the new age of college football, but any true freshman that comes in with a single-digit number from the start, odds are going to probably have a pretty successful career, right? You know, we'll have to wait and see with this slate, but that's normally a pretty good sign there. Richard Wesley, the really talented Sierra Canyon defensive end coming in, he will wear number 99. Hayward Howard out of Edna Carr down in Louisiana, he will wear 21. And then we have some new numbers here. There will be a new number for Cade Phillips. All right. That is still to be determined. I believe the belief is he will wear number 8. But Smoke Matthews, Jeff, I know you're a big fan of his.
Yes, I am.
Number 11 this year for the Texas Longhorns. That, of course, is where we sit now with only a handful of guys that have made jersey decisions. We'll, of course, get a full roster closer to spring football, which is about a month away, believe it or not.
Heck yeah. Less than a month now.
Yeah.
This practice starts March 9th. We're February 10th. We're under a month to go until spring ball starts. Stebby2 does mention Tyler Atkinson will wear 16 per his TikTok live. Yeah, we've seen that, the Tyler Atkinson. That's it's interesting, CJ, that used to be not that big a deal. Maybe you'd see, oh, yeah, this guy's going to get the number that was assigned to this former great player. But, man, you talk about a guy like Tyler Atkinson, it's about branding. Like, you got to – I think the first time we really saw that was when CJ Baxter came into Texas and Jordan Whittington was wearing 4. And I don't know if monetarily Jay Witt was compensated, but you know, Jay Witt, I know he got asked about it in the media, and I think he said he was just messing with CJ, that he would have given him 4 anyway. But that was the first time because, you know, C4 was a really big part of his marketing.
Right.
And Tyler Atkinson, yeah, he's become synonymous already with that 16. So got to hang on to it, man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what happens with the number 8, right? KJ Lacey previously wearing number 8. Cam Coleman now coming in. Hey, the young buck, I need that number, right? We'll see. Of course, Emmett Mosley previously was number 10 at Stanford. Well, you can't wear number 10 at Texas, obviously. So that's why he was wearing number 3 this year as well. So it's going to be really interesting. And I'm sure you're just like me in this sense where this means nothing, but it's fun to watch and follow and kind of sit around and hypothesize about, you know, what's going on. So I'm all excited for it as well.
Look, we got nothing else right now, right? We're in between the end of the season and the start of spring ball, and it's a dead period for recruiting. So really, like, we got nothing else to talk about. We might as well talk about jersey numbers, and it's something that I'm remotely interested in anyway. So good for us talking about it. Cisco Diaz asked an interesting question. Who will be number 7 of defense? 7's becoming, and this has kind of been one of my deals, CJ. 7 is becoming what I always felt like 11 should be, because 11 is one of those deals where no national player of the year has worn 11, but you look through the history of this program, Derek Johnson, probably the best 11. Ricky wore 11 for 3 years. You know, Major wore 11. Colin Simmons wore 11 now for one season.
Yep.
I feel like 11 should kind of be like what LSU does with 7, or what, you know, Syracuse has done with 44 over the years, where, man, you're bad as due. Like, if you wear 11 at Texas, the Michigan does that with number 1 for wide receivers. Like, if you're wearing 11 in burnt orange, you're a bad dude.
Yep. Now, I would love for that tradition to happen, and I'm going to push back on the number 7 thing because it feels forced, right? LSU, we know all about it. Texas, you had it with Jade, obviously Michael Huff, but it felt like that was more of just their relationship, more than this is what the trend is at Texas. So, you know, I don't know if, and I see folks talk about it all the time, saying who's wearing number 7 for Texas? Who's the guy that's going to carry on that legacy? And to me, I say, I don't know if it is a legacy, right? Yeah. You had 2 really good players, right? Don't get me wrong, but it's never been a passed down traditional thing, unless I've just completely missed this over the last 10 or 15 years. So yeah, I'd like to see it happen organically. And maybe Jade from Huff is the start of something, but I think right now it just feels completely forced when it comes to trying to find out who's going to wear this specific number. And that to me is number 7. So we'll see.
Jake Hill, I'm pretty sure Michael Huff would be flattered with the idea that DBU started with Michael Huff. DBU at Texas started long before Michael Huff got to the 40 acres. I mean, when you talk about defensive back tradition at Texas, it was even before these guys that I'm going to mention. But really, when I think of what started Texas as DBU, it's Johnny Johnson, it's Jerry Gray, is Derek Hatchett. Like, it's that group, Glenn Blackwood. Like, it's that group from like the late 70s, early 80s that really started. Like if you look at Texas becoming DBU, that was it. But honestly, Rod's talked a lot about it. Dwayne Aquino, when he got to Texas in 2001, that was one of his goals was I want to make Texas back into DBU. And Coach Aquino's first year was the 2001 season. Quentin Jammer goes and gets drafted in the first round. I think fourth overall by the Chargers, I think. And then Kenny Vaccaro, Earl Thomas, Michael Griffin, Aaron Ross, just going down the line of the first round DBs. Huff was definitely part of that. So yeah, I'm sure Huff would be flattered, but yeah, the DBU tradition at Texas goes way beyond Michael Huff. So we get jersey numbers are going out and being issued. I do that 11, and CB and a couple other people have mentioned it in the chat. Maybe somebody should wear 16. That could be, you're never going to retire 16 in all likelihood. So let one of your, captains or whatever wear it. I tell you a tradition, CJ, that I really like that I thought was going to get started, but it didn't. I liked when that 2015 season when Texas wore the throwback jerseys to honor the 69 national championship team.
Yeah.
And Duke Thomas wore 28 to honor Freddie Steinmark. And I thought, man, just not for a season, but like just you designate like one game to be like the throwback game or whatever. And like that, somebody wears 28 and you get
that.
Yeah. So that way you get to tell the story all over again, and young fans that don't know it. Then I know Freddie's story's been made into a movie, but I really thought, I was hoping that tradition would get carried on.
And Texas fan, folks in the chat, please don't grill me here, but who did Breckenhager end up wearing? He ended up wearing
60. Yeah.
Was that for Novus?
It was Tommy Novus, but Breckenhager's dad was one of the last people to wear. Britt Hager was one of the last people to wear 60 as like a regular jersey number. Yeah.
I think that would be cool. A team captain who against A&M or against Arkansas, someone late in the season, if you get to play them at home that year in November, they end up wearing the number to honor a guy in the Texas Hall of Fame or someone that, 30, 40, 50 years ago meant a whole lot to the program. That would be cool to me. Now, it's happened a couple times, that I think, the instances we just brought up, I think that would be a cool starting point. But, again, it to me needs to feel organic to become a year in, year out kind of deal.
Yeah. So Brian Jones, I'm pretty sure Brian Jones was the last Texas player to be assigned the number 60 for a whole season. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was Brian Jones in 1990. And then Dusty Renfro, I believe, was the next Longhorn that wore it in the 98 season, that 99 Cotton Bowl against Mississippi State, which was Dusty's last game. He wore 60. Derek Johnson then wore it for his last home game against Texas A&M, which I thought was awesome. Yeah. And unless I'm forgetting somebody, I don't think anybody wore it again until Breckenhager wore it, because the word on the street, CJ, was for that bowl game that the coaches, had he played, the coaches were willing to let Malik Jefferson wear 60 because it was going to be probably his last game, but he was hurt.
See, I like that.
But and I didn't have a problem with Brecken wearing it because like I said, because his dad, you could tie the lineage to it. So I didn't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, like I'm sure if given the opportunity, I know Michael Taft wore 16 for other reasons, and absolutely is something that his legacy will always be remembered for. But a senior send-off type of game for a guy who for 4 or 5 years had been one of the heartbeats of your team, Taft, I think, would qualify as such. It'd be cool to see him also honor someone, that played or was honored at Texas years ago. So maybe that's something. That I'm kind of thinking and wishing out loud about.
No, I did say a minute ago that I don't know 16 will be retired, but man, if Arch is in New York holding up the stiff arm trophy in December, six, nobody's going to wear 16 again.
It might not. It's funny. A quick backstory on that. I think you might have been there, Jeff, during the middle of, what was it? The middle of fall camp. Was it the first week or first month of the season? Arch is struggling, right? We've talked about it. And we're talking to Michael Taft one day, and he said, Huff came up to me one time and he said, think about it. You're probably going to have more number 16 jerseys in the stadium today and that's the last time it'll ever happen. Arch goes out there and evidently ends up has a big day. And, Taft talks to us the next week and he said, you know what? Yeah, I'll never see more 16s in that stadium with my name on it than ever with Arch again. So I'm sure I butchered that story a little bit, but it was always kind of interesting to hear kind of the back and forths a little bit about Arch and Taft obviously being good friends, but also sharing 16.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, before we do anything else, let's go ahead and thank our lead sponsor for the Tuesday night live stream. That's Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise. Are you stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and you don't have any control over the money you can make or your schedule in general? Just give Andy a call. He's going to walk you through a process that'll help find a business that fits your skill set and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everybody, but if you've got a desire to take control of your own destiny, just call Andy or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Again, call him at 404-973-9901 or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. All right, CJ, let's go ahead and get to some questions here on the Tuesday night live stream. Roger Goodman, what's Brandon Baker's status? Is he playing left guard this season? It's going to be one of those two interior spots. My thing with him, CJ, for spring, and we've talked about this out loud, I like the idea of him working at guard in the spring, even though Trevor Gooseby could miss most or all of spring ball. So it'd be tempting, hey, put your best 5 out there, which probably means Brandon Baker's a tackle. If he's going to move to guard, move him there and let him get used to playing guard.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that has to be the case. Whether or not Gooseby plays or is healthy or is available for the spring, you need to put your best 5 in the position for the fall, right? The spring, to hell with it, right? Point being, and what you're putting across here, Brandon Baker needs to be at the right guard or left guard spot. Whatever they see fit for his strengths, I think it would make a lot of sense to just kind of move him in a slot from right tackle to right guard and say, all right, use that same kind of kick mechanics when necessary. Obviously, your hand movement and placement and approach doesn't change all too much, but he needs to be playing the guard spot because that's where he figures to be in the fall. To me, that makes the most sense. And then, of course, you can kind of piece together a swing tackle. We all know that's very valuable if you can get some reps for a 3rd or 4th string tackle in the spring. And we all know how talented Trevor Gooseby is. So I'm with you 100%, Jeff.
Yeah, like I said, if you're going to move him to guard, just move him there. I mean, it's interesting. I think you could do either or, but I like the idea of, if Melvin Siani is going to be your right tackle, I like the idea of Brandon Baker at right guard, just so you can get those two guys used to playing together, because whoever your left guard is, it's not going to be as much of a margin for error, the guy that's lining up between Trevor Gooseby and Connor Robertson, your 2 returning starters.
That's a good point. Hey, let me get your thoughts on that as well, because if you look at that left side, if Gooseby is not a full go in the spring, you're looking at perhaps a brand new duo on that left side, right? With Lawrence Seymour, should he be given a clearance, or Dylan Sikowski, or Sikorsky, excuse me. But who's going to be that next tackle option, I think, is going to be a big question mark, considering, hey, Andre Kojo, that's like right at 8 months off of the ACL injury. There's more to that, especially at 335 pounds. What's that communication going to be like?
Sometimes it's, I don't want to say it's easy for skill guys to come back from an ACL, because an ACL is a pretty serious injury. But, man, for big guys, it can be really hard. I would think that this is the time where, hey, if Jaden Chapman's going to have a role in this thing, this is the time where he needs to step up and take a role.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah, I mean, because I think the sooner you figure out what he can give you, the sooner you can get through spring ball, and then whoever would be your next tackle option at that point. I mean, maybe it's Jordan Coleman. I don't know. Just fill in the blank guy. You can tell them, like, hey, you need to be ready to go because you're our next option. And then devote all your resources to getting that guy ready to go. So that's kind of where I am on that. I mean, am I missing anybody? I think I don't know who it would be other than Jaden Chapman.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And again, it kind of speaks into, well, how advanced is Jordan Coleman, right? Is he a guy that Texas believes can play a swing tackle spot? What then does, a Jonte Newman provide? I think is also kind of a guy that could be in this conversation. Remember, Jonte Newman was a guy coming out of Bridgeland that you looked at and you said, the wingspan is that already of an elite tackle,
Yeah.
right? It was 82, 83-inch wingspan. How does he get up to speed with his weight, his feet, everything that goes on into the nuance of playing the tackle position? So obviously it's another year of strength and conditioning would play a large role for him. But to me, Jeff, I think there's going to be, I don't want to say pressure, but probably more expectations on a Jordan Coleman than maybe anticipated coming into this spring, given, some of the availabilities that will be, set forth for him.
Jonte Newman's the wild card for me up front because I have no idea what to expect. Like it's not that I'm not discounting him as a player by any stretch. I don't even know where to set the bar. Like that's just me being honest. Like I'm serious. Like he could come in and be great this spring, or he could be a guy that needs a lot of work. And honestly, like neither one would really surprise me.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of the risk not risk, but you understand that probably not a guy that you're gonna rely on immediately this year, but you go out and you take him for the future of this group. And again, had he been a guy that ended up in the Texas class out of high school, I think folks would have sat there and said, very excited for year 2 with him.
Because what are you going off of right now? You're going off your high school evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
What do you play, like 20-something snaps, if that, against Samford in a blowout late?
If that, yep.
Kind of nondescript. I don't know if he had practice cut-ups of A&M practices to send to Texas coaches. That'd be wild to think that. But yeah, you're really going off of, hey, we like this guy in high school. Well, let's get him in here and see kind of what that 1 year at A&M did, where he got to, I don't know, basically kind of hone his craft at the college level outside of your room, whatever. But yeah, wild card is how I would describe Jonte Newman. CB asked, did lifetime Longhorn Ben Wells join Sark's staff? According to his X profile, he did. Yes, Ben Wells was Ben Wells, for those unfamiliar with his background, signed with Texas in the class of 2008, was a teammate of Blake Gideon. They were actually in the same recruiting class, Ben Wells and Blake Gideon. Aaron Williams was also a part of that class in the secondary. They played for Will Muschamp, was part of the 2009 team that won the Big 12 title and played for the BCS national title. I believe Ben Wells, I forget if he blocked a punt against Missouri in that win in Columbia in 2009 or recovered a blocked punt for a touchdown. It was one or the other. I've slept since then, so I can't remember. But recruiting coordinator is his title. CJ worked in that recruiting office for GJ Kinney at Texas State. So Ben finished his college career at SFA, was back in high school coaching, again, most recently at Texas State. And just knowing a little bit about the Texas State program, that staff works really, really hard evaluating kids at the high school level, because when GJ was hired, look, Take Back Texas, it's a nice slogan, but it's something like that staff lives by. Like, they want to make their lifeblood Texas high school football players and recruiting high school kids from the state of Texas. So yeah, I mean, it's a nice little move up the ladder for Ben. And we talked about this in the lives and on the recruiting breakdown. You're getting to the point where you need to, if you have the means to do it, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't beef up your recruiting staff, because especially on the high school front, a lot of times you're trying to find guys that are those diamonds in the rough, because you need some of that rev share money to go to your big time blue chip prospects and your portal guys. So you need somebody that understands the guys Ben Wells was helping look for at Texas State are the kinds of guys that Texas now will look for to kind of fill out a recruiting class, fill out a roster.
So I have two takeaways to this, and I'll start with where he came from, Texas State. And you hit a lot of it there, Jeff. Is Texas State kind of has to live exactly like that, right? They have to live in the sense that the guys that they go sign need to show more upside and developmental traits than probably some of the big time guys that Texas is typically after, right? The Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Georgias. We all know that they're going after the top recruits in the country. Well, we're seeing now Texas is not backfilling, but essentially looking to fill most of the class with guys that may not take up a huge chunk of the NIL pot. So I think he has a background in finding some of those diamonds in the rough that we were talking about. But on top of that, Jeff, I always like a guy coming back to play for or coach for his alma mater, right? That to me says I'm at where I need to be. Now it's about putting 110% of the effort that I have into making this place great, because it means something to me. It's a special place for me. And that to me is something that I always kind of look at and say, as long as they don't get in legal trouble, right? We saw that in the basketball world, right? Whatever. But point being, it should mean a whole lot to be back at where you played at, where you graduated from, and ultimately a place that means a lot to you.
I think Ben and Blake too can help guys, because look, Will Muschamp's intensity, the guys are already getting a taste of it in winter conditioning. They'll get all they can handle, the Will Muschamp intensity during spring practice. Having Ben Wells in the building, a guy that can understand, like, hey, yes, I know he yelled at you, but kind of here's what it means. Like, I've been there before. Basically, he can kind of be a Muschamp translator, for lack of a better term, for some of those guys on defense. Because CJ, I guarantee you, when you talk to guys like Roy Miller and Lamar Houston and Sergio Kindle, and it was a shock to their system when Will Muschamp first got to Texas, it is going to be a shock to the system of multiple guys on this roster.
Mm-hmm.
So I like having I'm not gonna say Ben Wells is a Muschamp whisperer, but again, somebody that can kind of decode Muschamp a little bit and tell guys like, yeah, I know he yelled at you. Yeah, he's intense, but here's what it means. And if you put in the work, like, these are the benefits you're going to reap from it. So I dig it. I dig it on multiple fronts. So yes, CB, to answer your question, yes, Ben Wells is a part of the Texas staff on the recruiting front. Freelance Society and Rathers Asbury, I know you asked this question too, but Freelance Society, thank you for the super chat. As always, great to hear from you. I want what's best for Jonah, but him and McDonald playing together would be a nasty duo. Bash Brothers. Yes, and we got asked, like, what's the word on Jonah as far as baseball goes? CJ, we'll see when the lineup card comes out on Friday. Now, Schloss is going to meet with the media tomorrow, I think at 11 or noon. I forget the time. I got the email this evening. But we might get an idea of what the opening weekend lineup looks like. It wouldn't surprise me if Jonah's not in that mix, because it's going to take him some time just to get reacclimated, because, he may have taken a walk across 35 and gotten in the cage a couple times, but he wasn't doing the baseball work during football season that the other guys were doing. So it's going to take his body, his skill set. It's going to take him some time to get reacclimated. But if everything clicks, if he's good to go, whenever he's good to go, he's going to be a really big part of this thing for Schloss.
No, absolutely. Again, the expectations on the baseball side of things is that he's one of your best 9, right? He's going to be in the outfield starting when he is fully up to speed. And what I mean by that is, you take 7 or 8 months off of hitting 95 and then seeing an 82-mile-per-hour slider. It's going to take you some time. That's not something that you can just pick back up like it's riding a bike. Maybe some of the best in the world can, but even then, you get 20 games of spring training, right? So for Jonah, you don't necessarily get that. How quickly will he be a guy that's inserted back in the lineup? I think that's more dependent upon how quickly he can see live hitting, live reps, live pitches here in the next week and a half, maybe. And then, of course, with Jonah comes any type of conversation about, is he 100%? And right now, look, I have no reason to think that he isn't close to 100%. So fingers crossed on both ends, both football and baseball. This could be something that works out in the long run. But I can't help but kind of fantasize about what a Jonah Williams and Jelani McDonald tandem would look like in the back. And that's kind of the dream build and, skill set of both guys is playing back deep.
I wonder what exactly the plan is for him during spring ball.
Yeah. I do too.
Does he get to participate a little bit? And it's one of those deals where, when spring ball really gets kicked into high gear, the baseball team is going to be an SEC play at that point. Mm-hmm. So, how much time does Jonah spend over there? And I know Schloss and Sark have had plenty of dialogue back and forth with each other. The working relationship there, as far as I know, has been really good in terms of making sure Jonah's devoting his time to the specific craft and when he's supposed to be devoting it. So I don't think there's been any infighting as far as that goes. At least I haven't heard about any. But yeah, I mean, the upside, it's really weird. Like the interesting thing, anytime we talk about Jonah Williams, the upside is like, we're not talking about like a football guy who, he just so happens to play baseball. Like, we're talking about a guy that has legitimate pro potential in both sports.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of the, well, I mean, you want to do right by him to let him kind of find his path. But at the same time, if I'm Sark or I'm Schloss, yeah, selfishly, no, I want more of him.
Exactly. It's all about the selfishness of it while also letting, what's best for the university. But I'm with you. If I'm either one of those guys, I'm sitting there saying, Jonah, are you sure? Are you sure you don't like, lacing up your spikes and the smell of pine tar just a little bit more than getting your bell rung? Why would you not? I mean, to fight for a 5-star level guy in either sport. And again, will a conversation ever come where he picks one? I'm sure. Are we close to that right now? I don't believe so.
I just, I know we get caught up in how old guys are when they're on the stage. By the way, did you know during the 2024 season, Ryan Williams was 17 lining up at Alabama? I don't know if you knew that, CJ, but just throwing that out there because the freaking broadcast lets you know every other rep he was on the field for. But I digress. No, I just kept thinking back to the regional and Jonah getting big time base hits, clutch hits in a regional. And it was a Friday night. I'm like, I just happened to look at it like Galveston Ball's graduation ceremony was the next night. I'm like, this guy's supposed to be walking across the stage to get his high school diploma tomorrow night. Instead, he's been in the SEC battles with the baseball team and starting and contributing really, really big time in a regional. Like, just he's a special kid. So like, I guess you just kind of have to let him play it out until he feels compelled to make a decision. I do think the other interesting aspect to him too, his brother played pro baseball. Yeah. So he's got somebody that can tell him, hey, man, you may want to really think about this football thing because do you really want the life of, being on the bus and going around to one-horse towns in the minor leagues and A-ball and slugging it out? For some guys, that's the dream. For some guys, they get there and not so much. So I don't know, man. It's interesting. It's interesting from multiple standpoints. It's a multi-layered discussion anytime we're talking about Jonah. But somebody mentioned it. Doug Haywood mentions it. Said, I want McDonald and Derek Williams at safety. When you look at that safety room, that's something we haven't talked a ton about is Derek Williams now this long removed from the knee injury. Yeah. And go to the portal, come back. What was he going to do? He's a guy that I think maybe he's physically ready to get back on that trajectory he looked like he was on before the knee injury.
No, I hope so. And I know that, again, ACL injuries are very finicky when it comes to the recovery and how quickly you're able to get back to where you were pre-injury. More times than not, I guess in some instances is probably the better way to phrase this. You see guys even take a next step with their athleticism, right? All the work that they put into the rehabilitation, they look better, they look quicker, they look faster, but that takes a long time to get to that point, right? And I certainly don't think we saw that last year with Derek Williams, right? He tore his ACL against Oklahoma in Dallas in 2024. So that's middle of the season. He was suiting up towards the back end of spring football. And I know that's not a long time, but when that happens, you're just so eager to step back up on the field and get back to being with the boys. Are you sure you did enough in your rehabilitation? Well, now another year removed from that injury, the expectation and the hope is he is in a position to be back on the field in a large capacity. And I'm with you because, look, he played the pass very well, right? And on top of that, I think he's a guy that plays the run very well. In that same game against Oklahoma, he forced a fumble that helped Texas put points on the board right before halftime. He runs the alley, as Rod would say it, very well. He's an alley cat. Mm-hmm. He's physical. He plays larger than his frame would think as well. So for Derek Williams, I think it would be a massive boost to Blake Gideon, Will Muschamp, and that Texas defense if he is a guy that can look back to where he was in 2024.
I'm not saying he was the difference, but you go back to that Sugar Bowl loss to Washington, he was out of the game for the first half because he got that targeting penalty in the second half of the Big 12 championship game. So he missed the first half. And Michael Penix was awesome that night. And again, I'm not saying if Derek Williams plays that Texas definitely wins, but the way he was playing, CJ, I would have liked to have seen what difference he could have made.
Yeah, I know it. I know it, Jeff. It's not fair.
Wouldas, couldas, and shouldas. We could be here all night doing that. And I don't need to go on my Jonathan Brooks die on a hill comment, but unless you guys want me to. But hey, I need to thank a couple more of our wonderful sponsors here for the Tuesday night live stream. Big shout out to Duck Camp, long-running sponsor here at On Texas Football. Duck Camp makes gear for folks who live for being out there, whether that's in a duck blind at sunrise or on the 40 acres for a Saturday kickoff. Born right here in Austin, Duck Camp builds best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel that works just as well for a full day in the field as it does for a long day of tailgating. From sun protection shirts that keep you cool during those early season scorchers to their iconic game series hats that feel like instant classics, Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season, and every season in between. Get out there, stay out there, and hook them. Shop Duck Camp at duckcamp.com. And all Texas football fam, don't forget, use the promo code ONTexas25. It's ONTexas25 for 25% off of your order at duckcamp.com. And now, with the help of a couple of legendary lifetime Longhorns, here's a word from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right, SEC War Daddy says, Jeff, do we know who is currently the strongest player on the team? Who is the fastest? CJ, strongest is an interesting question because you could go by, hey, who can just throw up the most weight on various lifts, or hey, kind of the pound for pound, analytical data type measurement, who is the strongest athlete in the program. I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know off the top of my head who would be. I don't have a good answer to you.
Yeah, no, I don't right now. It's funny because this is always a fun off-season conversation, especially the fastest when you had Xavier Worthy, right? Keaton Crawford was always in that conversation for a while. Keelan Robinson. This year, obviously, Ryan Niblett's probably going to be a guy that you look at and say in the mix for being the fastest. Who else? No, there's probably a handful of guys. I don't know. Does Jermaine Bishop have that blazing speed? I know 10-7 was kind of that range for Cohen Brown coming in. Yeah. Who else kind of creeps down in the 10-4, 10-5 range? Could it be Cam Coleman? I don't know. At least not right now. Strongest, what was really interesting, strongest last year was the name I always heard linked to strongest was Connor Stroud. And I know folks sat there and said, turn this stream off after I said that, but he was always in that conversation. I think Cole Brevard was always a guy in that conversation as well.
Yeah.
Can I throw a sneaky pick out there for you?
Go for it.
If we're going pound for pound, I think it's Justice Terry.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I think we're going to hear a lot about Josiah Sharma in that conversation as well.
Wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me at all. I was trying to think of any of the offensive linemen.
Coleman brothers probably in that.
Those two came to mind pretty quick. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know, like Jonte Newman. I don't know what Jonte Newman can do in the weight room, but yeah. Josiah Sharma is, I think, I don't know what his weight room numbers are. I think they're going through some of that right now in the off season, but I think Josiah Sharma would be. Doug Haywood mentioned Zion Williams could be another. I don't know about strength, but man, your winner for heaviest Longhorn in 2026 is going to be Ian Gerard. I don't see anybody taking that title from him, CJ. And that's not a knock on him because he moves well. Yeah. He moves as well as somebody his size can move, and man, plays a lot of snaps. Like for a guy that big, guys that big typically don't play as many snaps as he does.
No, I think you're right. He's certainly, Ian Gerard's definitely going to have the heaviest plate, right? We know that to be a fact as well. CB mentions it. JJ mentions it. The guy, Justice Terry, the photo of him, I believe in middle school or going into his freshman year with his shirt off, standing outside after a weight room or a workout. I mean, that's kind of the stuff that you look at and say, okay, this guy looks like Terrell Suggs. so he's going to be in this conversation. I probably had a brain lapse here. Raleek Brown has to be in this conversation, if not for the straight line fastest, at least the shiftiest, right? A guy that can cut on a dime, just like Jermaine Bishop. I think with the ball in his hands might play a little faster than some of the 100-meter time or laser 40 times might suggest. That's a guy I think should be in this conversation as well, Jeff.
Yeah. And again, like fast as it just depends on like, okay, are you talking about just like fast starters? Because like Jermaine Bishop, Hollywood Smothers would be one of those guys. Raleek Brown's in that conversation.
Yeah.
Ryan Wingo, I don't know about starters, but if you're talking about top end speed, I don't know that anybody has better like top end speed at the end of a 40 or a 60 or whatever than Ryan Wingo would have. So it's Jason Xavier Filson. He's probably another guy in that conversation.
He's a 10-5 guy at McKinney. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting anytime. And again, I'm interested to hear what some of the weight. Sometimes we get exact numbers, sometimes we don't, but we'll hear some of that stuff come out the closer we get to spring ball as guys go through that stuff in the off season. Cisco Diaz has a question, and I want to get to it. I'll get to it here in just a second, but because Jerry Hamilton wrote something this morning over on TexasFootball.com that I want to hit on before we get out of here. But I want to thank another one of our sponsors here on the Tuesday Night Live Stream. Our long-running sponsor for the recruiting breakdown here on the channel is Mark Saunders, Allstate. So big shout out to Mark. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Well, here's some good news. Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders is the only insurance agent you need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. If you're looking for someone local to the Austin and Round Rock area, give Mark a call at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders. Again, call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Actually, super chat from Juan Garza. Cisco, I'll get to your question here in a second, but Juan Garza asked, what's happening with the JT Grassi interview?
That I don't know. I think we will I think it was just recorded, and we'll see if it goes up this week, and I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I believe that's a Jerry Hamilton project. Producer Matt says it's been recorded, so there you go. All right, thank you for the assist there, Matthew. There's a Jerry project. CJ and I were not involved in the recording of that, so shout out to Jerry for getting that done. So Cisco asked, is this the best stretch of multiple years of double-digit draft picks in Texas history? Yes. It's the only time in the 7-round era that Texas has had 1 year, let alone 2 years, with double-digit draft picks. And shameless plug, CJ and I had a discussion on the channel yesterday about I think we're entering kind of a golden era of NFL production / presence for Texas at that level. And I get, like, not all Texas fans watch the NFL. I get it, but that's not the point, because like we talked about on the video, and I truly believe it's like there's no better free marketing for your program than success at the NFL level when your alums are getting drafted in the first round and going to Pro Bowls and getting all pro honors and winning Super Bowls. Like we saw 3 lifetime Longhorns contribute to the Seahawks winning a Super Bowl. It's good for your program. CJ, Jerry brought this up on, again, over on TexasFootball.com. You can get over there and check out this article that Jerry wrote. But basically talking to an NFL scout about the Longhorns in the 2026 and 2027 draft. So I'll just run this down real quick. Anthony Hill, quote, we had him as a second-day guy for a while, has the possibility to work his way up. So I don't think, CJ, that's a shocker for Anthony Hill's stock to be early second, maybe sneaks his way into the late first round.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense of where he's at. And again, he was a name that was, before the season was a first-round mocked guy. And, for whatever reason, whether it was the way he was used, whether it was turnover luck, his numbers and performance, especially towards the back end, just maybe didn't have some of that same hype and shine as it was in 2025 or 2024, excuse me. So yeah, I think second round is probably the best spot, probably the most accurate spot for where we'll see Ant Hill go in the draft this year.
So to Cisco's question, I mean, I already talked about it in the 7-round era. This is the first two seasons, 2 years where Texas had double-digit draft picks in the 24 and 25 drafts. 23 draft picks the last 2 years. That's more than anybody in the country. And 12 draft picks in the 25 draft. That's tied for the most draft picks by any school in the 7-round era, which started in 1994. Is Texas going to get the double-digit guys in this draft? Probably not.
Probably not.
But again, this is what an NFL scout told Jerry. Ethan Burke, mid-rounds to late guy. I like his length and his motor. Malik Muhammad, a mid-round guy. DJ Campbell is going to be his draft process is going to be, I think that's kind of the one I've got my eye on to see how that ends up. The quote was, has more talent than play on the field, played okay last year, likely mid-rounds, but showed pretty well last week. Does he love ball? Jack injuries, likely mid-round selection. CJ, we talked about it, not a great tight end draft, not a deep tight end draft, so maybe he moves his way up. Michael Taft, late rounds likely. Cole Brevard, big man scarcity, will get him in a camp, very late round or undrafted free agent. Travis Shaw will be in a camp as an undrafted free agent. So if you look at the potential draft picks, if you look at Hill, Burke, Muhammad, Campbell, injuries, and Taft, I think that's 7 guys that you feel pretty good about them getting drafted this year. And that's not, it's not a knock on this class. Like, oh, how do you fall from double digits to 7? There were times where like 7 guys in a draft at Texas would be a reason to throw a parade.
Yeah,
so
you're absolutely right.
Put it all in perspective here.
Well, and think about that, right? You just lost, what, mid-20s guys over 2 years? It's tough to continue that. And Texas was a young team already going into this year. And, you know, did they lose anybody this year to the portal that will end up getting drafted? Off the top of my head, I can't think so. But point being, you know, 7 is a very healthy, you know, amount of guys to be drafted in a single draft. On top of that, you know, it could be 8 with Travis Shaw, right? We'll see if Cole Brevard obviously gets taken. I think interior defensive lineman with years of production experience is going to be, you know, something that teams look at. But on top of that, you know, Texas is loaded for 2027, right? The 27 draft. And the big win for Texas this year isn't the NFL draft, but it was the retention of Trevor Gooseby. You know, It's all of these guys coming back to campus for one more year. And that makes, you know, I would say more Texas fans happy about what's going to be on the field for Texas in Austin next fall, rather than how many Longhorns hear their name called this year.
Look, I know I tend to do this, people, and I'm not doing this intentionally, right? But I just want to point out some NFL draft history, just to, again, put in perspective, like what 7 guys being drafted would do. The 2010 draft, which was right after the 2009 season, Texas, again, wins the Big 12, plays for a national championship. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 guys off that team got drafted. Then you go to the infamous 2014 draft. Now, there were Trey Hopkins should have been drafted.
Yeah.
Adrian Phillips should have been drafted. Those guys had lengthy NFL careers that injuries is what kind of kept them from getting drafted, but they played like guys that should have been drafted, had pretty nice NFL careers. Jackson Jeffcoat played for a couple years in the NFL, really long, prosperous career in Canada. But he had 0 in 2014. He had 2015. He had a nice draft with Malcolm Brown, Jordan Hicks, Mikael Thompson, Quandre Diggs, Jeff Swaim. So that's 5 guys right there. He had 1 in 2016. That was Hassan Ridgeway, and 1 in 2017 with Deontay Foreman. So in a span of 4 drafts, 3 of those you had 1 or fewer players drafted.
The dark ages, as we call them.
The very, very dark, CJ, like the abyss of Texas football, as I refer to it sometimes. So yeah, I'm very happy that I love the draft. Like ever since I was a kid, I've loved the draft. Dude, covering the draft sucks when like all right, there's no reason for me to pay attention to day 1 or 2 of this thing. Like, let's just wait till we get to day 3 and see what the heck happens. Like,
it's funny.
Fun.
It's funny last year, right? You look back and Texas has a successful draft, and you know your quarterback coming into the year was expected to be a guy taken very early, falls all the way to 7th round, and you sit around and you said, well, it's not really even a storyline, because what's overshadowed is, well, you just had double-digit guys taken once again. right? It's the success and the health of your program producing this many guys year in and year out, rather than, well, how did this happen, right? How did this 5-star, 3-year starter fall to the 7th round? Well, who cares, right? You just put, again, another double-digit worth of Longhorns into the NFL. And again, I don't think that's going to be the case this year, but over a 3-year period, you're going to be averaging 10 guys in the NFL draft hear their name. That's something that you can promote. You're going to be, once again, amongst the top leaders of any team in the country when it comes to most guys in the draft over a 3-year period. And I believe that over anything is one of the greatest marketing tools that you could use if you're Steve Sarkisian, the recruiting staff, and the university.
Quinn ended up starting a couple games as a rookie anyway, made a roster, so it was fine. Yeah, and that's not to demean Quinn or anything, but because I agree with CJ who said it doesn't matter. Like, he had 3 first-round picks. Like, that's like you'll take that win over the loss of why'd your quarterback fall to the 7th round.
Correct.
Which, dude, that's a position that's still like who was it? I was hearing somebody talk about their draft. I've heard Brady talk about it too. Like, people always get enamored with the guys that, like, oh man, this guy from a knee can throw it through the uprights.
Yeah.
That's a great
Joe Miltons of the world. They're like, oh, look at the arm strength on this bad boy.
Cannot articulate how, quick tangent, I cannot articulate how, as a Cowboys fan, it drives me like to want to drink drain cleaner during a preseason game, or like Joe Milton comes in and does a couple things like, see, he's better than Dak. You should, like, there's a reason why Joe Milton is struggling to maintain life on an NFL roster. Like, if throwing the ball the furthest and the hardest what equated to wins, like, Joe Milton would be an all-pro. But that's not what quarterbacking is about. And teams continually get it wrong. Like, why Tyler Shuck was an early 2nd-round pick, I don't know, because I don't know, CJ, I watched Tyler Shuck, like, with my eyes play quarterback in college. Like, the Anthony Richardson thing was the same thing. Like, he can do this and this. I'm like, yeah, y'all watch Florida. Like, he's pretty mid at Florida. Like, we're just going to ignore the tape, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the one that always surprised me now, and, credit to him, but seeing Brock Purdy at Iowa State for 4 years progressively get worse and worse and worse every year, and then end up being, what he is now. I think, one, it's remarkable, but 2, it's like, how did he turn that poorly under Matt Campbell and those guys at Iowa State? Because if you remember, Jeff, and for anybody at home watching this, I recommend you, once we end the live here, stay on YouTube and go watch the final, series against Clemson in the Iowa State Clemson game. His final game, he threw a ball that was batted right back to him. He bats the ball again forward for an interception that goes about 12 yards down the field. The very last possession, he ends up, I believe, fumbling 12 yards down the field, picks it up and tries to throw it once again. It was some of the worst footballing I've ever seen in my entire life. And this was a guy, as a sophomore and a freshman, was getting mocked as a future first rounder.
Yeah.
Now he's pieced it together, I would like to think, because of the quarterback they have over there in San Francisco, or the head coach they have in San Francisco. But he's always been a guy that I look at the quarterback position and just say, I don't know how I'm getting this so wrong. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
And you know what? I think it just shows – it just goes to show you that, like, Kyle Shanahan, I think that's – like, all you need to know, like, how good a football coach is Kyle Shanahan? The dude got to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy as his quarterback.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we called him Pump Fake Purdy, like, during his last couple of years at Iowa State. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
But, he did that. But then I love Kyle Shanahan, but it's like, yeah, he evaluated Brock Purdy and fit him in his system, and it's great. He also gave up a lot of draft picks to go get Trey Lance.
Yeah, that's true.
And I talked to a current college coach who shall remain nameless, who admitted what I've heard pro coaches admit behind the scenes. Like, dude, at the end of the day, none of us knows for sure what we're doing with quarterbacks. You just take as many as you can, and law of averages says one of these guys is going to hit, and that's kind of where it is. So
don't tell the Browns that.
No. And speaking of the Browns, one thing you're going to hear, most likely, you'll hear it in the preseason for sure, when we start figuring out, okay, which NFL teams are going to be really bad. tank for Arch is going to be a thing in 2026.
Yes, it will.
Whether you want to hear it or not, get ready for it. And again, this article that Jerry put up this morning at ontexasfootball.com, talk about Arch. The tools are there for him to be where, this is a quote from a scout, the tools are there for him to be where the mocks are going to have him. Like he's shown enough that he can get there. Colin Simmons, potential is through the roof. Great pass rusher, top 10 pick level prospect. Cam Coleman, definite first rounder, potential to be a high first rounder. Trevor Gooseby, liked him last year, has some things to work on still, like strength, potential to be a day one guy. Jelani McDonald, glad he stayed, will work himself into being a good pick next season. Ryan Wingo, like Ryan, more consistency will drive him up, likely day two guy. So if you take away McDonald and Wingo right there, like we talked about in the 27 draft between Arch, Colin Simmons, Cam Coleman, and Trevor Gooseby, that's 4 guys that could realistically go in the first round.
Yeah. And again, Texas was talented in 2025. They were, but they didn't have a top, 5 pick. They didn't have a first round pick. They didn't have a guy, at least not mocked right now, that you could lean on and say, yeah, they're one of the 30 best players in all of college football that is draft eligible. Next year, they could have 4, Jeff. And they could have 4 in the top 20 if things go very well. That's pretty remarkable to think about. And it goes back, I think this year was the first year that the trend did not continue. And I know Rod Babers has talked about it pretty often. The team that has the most NFL draft picks ends up being the team that wins the national championship. And obviously, you know that based off of the NFL draft months after the national championship. But that's been the case for about 6 straight national championships until Indiana this year. And again, we'll see how many they have. But Texas going into next year is going to be a team in the conversation for the most first-round picks and total draft picks of any team in the country.
Yeah, and you're going to see a lot of the other thing that's going to dominate the college football offseason discussion. You will hear a lot of Power 4 schools and beat writers of Power 4 schools and people that run sites and YouTube channels of Power Conference schools talk about, hey, we're using the Indiana model. We can do it like Indiana did it. Well, probably not, because Indiana took everything we knew about college football talent acquisition and how to build a championship team and completely turned it on its head. I don't think everybody's just going to be able to take this model and take it forward and replicate it. That's just not how these things typically work. So again, get ready to hear that fill in the blank school is the next Indiana. This school is the next Indiana. Well, there's really right now, as far as I'm concerned, only one Indiana. I do want to let me go ahead and get this last sponsor in because I want to make sure we got time to cover something. I want to. This goes back to the CDC town hall and it relates to something you mentioned a minute ago. But one more time, thank our lead sponsor for the Tuesday night live stream. That's Andy Ludicky in My Perfect Franchise. Do you want control over your own destiny? If you do, maybe franchise ownership is something that's right for you. If you think that's the case, then give Andy Ludicky a call. He's an expert at placing people in the right franchise that's going to fit your strengths and your finances. Again, franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, call Andy, 404-973-9901, or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. And again, big thank you to Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise for being the lead sponsor for the Tuesday night live stream here at On Texas Football. You mentioned, CJ, that the 2025 team, it was young. It lacked experience in some spots. And I forget the number CDC threw out during the town hall, but I think it was like the average age of the Texas roster was like 18.9 years of age. I think that was the number. How does that sit with you? Because it kind of, I don't want to say I'm conflicted about it, but I definitely see two sides of it. One, you had some key positions you did lack. But you were riding with Arch. You weren't going to the portal for a quarterback. You're going to ride with Arch. And it ends up working out, and his trajectory at the end of the year was outstanding, even though it was a rough about first month to 6 weeks that he was in the saddle. But there were some positions for that team last year, offensive line chief among them, where I don't know if it would have impacted your average age, but there was no excuse for you to be young at some positions. So, like, I definitely understand it at some positions where it was unavoidable, but there were some positions where you could have compensated for that in the portal.
I think you're absolutely right. This has kind of always been my take with Texas in the portal. it's going to be hard for Texas to ever be an old team. It just, quite frankly, it's going to be so difficult to ever be an old team. And, of the guys that we just mentioned off to the NFL draft, Jeff, I mean, would it have been nice to have an Anthony Hill and a Malik Muhammad return? Yeah, absolutely. But they're 3 and done. Colin Simmons, you'll never see him for a 4th year, right? A lot of these guys, and you're lucky to get a Trevor Gooseby. You're lucky to get a Jelani McDonald return for these years. That helps with the age. But when you recruit at a clip like in Texas, like in Alabama, Georgia, in Ohio State, it is going to be very difficult for you to be an old team. Whereas if you look at what Indiana was able to do, when you look at, I think SMU was an older team. It's a lot of guys who may not be in the conversation for being ready for the NFL right away. And so after 3 years, you now have a red shirt to work with. You have your senior season to work with. You're going to stay in college because you're probably not going to make more money coming out immediately than you could have made at whatever school that you're at. So I think that's something that Texas will always struggle to be, is an older team. And it's no fault of their own. It's because, hey, sometimes you just recruit guys that are too good to stay in college. And what's going to be interesting is, and my last point on this, sorry, Jeff.
Go for it.
Last point on this is what I think Texas is pivoting towards, and what we saw towards the back end of this last cycle is, well, now they're going out and adding a lot of these guys that you'd consider to be developmental, right? Maybe not someone that you see right away for a year. Maybe they get on special teams as year 2. They're not going to light up a recruiting board or a ranking sheet or anything like that, but you see the tools in them. You see some traits. You like their work ethic. Those are guys that are going to help you become an older football team. But of course, that's 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years away from really reaping the rewards of all the effort that you put into those guys.
In a sense, it's turned into kind of the highly extrapolated version of when the one and done era in college basketball became a thing. How I heard like Roy Williams at North Carolina ideally wanted to build a roster where I'm going to have a nucleus of like 3 and 4 year guys. Maybe at some point they've got NBA potential, but they're probably not going to be lottery pick type guys. Maybe you get lucky with 1 or 2 of them, but you're going to have a core veteran group and surround them with like a legitimate lottery type guy, like a one and done talent that can help you go win a national championship.
Yeah, just meshes well in.
Yeah,
with the veteran group.
It's
the opposite of Calipari.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the model that it's not a great comparison because it's comparing like apples and pomegranates when we're talking about football and basketball, but that's what effectively kind of what Kurt Signetti and his staff did at Indiana. Like you take core guys that they might not raise your ceiling to a national championship level, but they're going to raise your floor really, really high. And the Fernando Mendozas and the Omar Coopers and guys like that, your handful of special guys, those are the guys that are going to raise your ceiling.
Texas Tech did it pretty well this year as well. And now they're getting all conference level guys from the MAC, the Sun Belt. They took a couple guys from the in-conference Big 12, and they said, hey, for your final year, come play it over here. Lee Hunter was one. He could have gone to the draft a year ago. Obviously, their front 7, very old, very, very old, but they all produce. And, if you're able to do so, I think it's brilliant.
And at the end of the day, what was the big difference between Indiana and Texas Tech? Indiana had Fernando Mendoza and Texas Tech had Baron Morton.
You're absolutely right.
Man, that's about as simple as I could put it. Like one team, you had the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback for one team, and he elevated you in the times where you needed somebody to step up and elevate you. And Texas Tech didn't have that quarterback. I want to get to, we got one super chat to get to before we get out of here. Rocky P, thank you for the super chat. Who would you add to this team? John Robinson or Cedric Benson?
Oh, boy. Am I crazy for saying I don't think there's any Texas running back that I've seen with my own eyes that I would take over Bijan? So that includes Cedric. That includes Jamal Charles.
It's not crazy.
I think he's the most complete back. He is the most complete back in the NFL right now.
Yeah. I would take it a step further. I think he is I think he's the most effective offensive weapon in football right
Oof.
now. But man, I can't. I wanna say Cedric Benson because I don't think there was a I've seen great Texas running backs in my lifetime. Again, there's going to be a certain segment of our listenership that I saw Earl Campbell. I was born in 1983. Earl Campbell was long gone from the 40 acres by the time I was brought into this world. But really, for me, you kind of start at kind of the Phil Brown, Roderick Walker era of Texas football running backs. So that covers Sean Mitchell, Ricky, and everybody else. Man, I've seen some special ones. And I don't want to knock anybody, even though it's going to sound like I'm knocking, but I don't think I ever saw a guy play with just the level of toughness that Cedric Benson consistently played with.
Yeah.
A guy that just could, one of those guys that, like Ricky, was just so unique because he was a fullback size, but he had legit tailback speed. Like you just weren't catching him. Like Ricky was just physically a freak.
Sure.
Ced B wasn't a freak, but just one of those guys that he reminded me a lot of, and they're different styles of different body types. But one of the reasons why I really like Ced was he reminded me a lot of another one of my favorite running backs, reminded me a lot of Eddie George, just in terms of he had to, once he got lathered up and got into a rhythm, man, he just seemed like he got better and more effective as the game went on, to the point where, dude, like in the fourth quarter, he's 6 foot, 6'1", 220 pounds. Like, dude, you don't want to tackle that guy.
No, I'm sure not.
You want an ISO in the fourth quarter. But to your point, CJ, I don't care if you're a spread team, you're a single wing, you're an I formation, wishbone, whatever. Bijan Robinson's your best offensive player in whatever offensive scheme you want to put into play. So yeah, I'd take him.
I think I would too. And I mean,
it's my really long-winded answer of trying to praise Cedric Benson while still saying I love Seth B, but no, I'm taking.
You took the scenic route to get to the same point here.
Yeah.
This Jay Vossi had a great comment. That's not ridiculous to say that if you're aware of that meme and GIF, hilarious. By the way. But no, I think Bijan probably the best running back I've seen in, I don't know, my lifetime since I understood what power and counter were in football. So that's something for me, having watched a lot of Texas football, makes the most sense for me, at least.
Bijan was one of those rare running backs. Jamal Charles was like this. When they got the ball, you held your breath because like you could see something really special happen.
The best run of his career didn't count, right? It was against West Virginia. They said he stepped out of bounds and he was probably 2 or 3 yards from the sideline. But I think that's the best run of his career. He would have scored that. It would have been a 65, 70-yard touchdown. And we only got to see, what, a 6-yard gain out of it because they said that he stepped out of bounds early.
Dude, and I believe that was the first 100-yard game of his career, even with that run getting wiped out against West Virginia. I think he went over 100 yards for the first time in that game. And thank you for bringing that up, because that just reminds me, hey, Tom Herman would probably be the head coach at Texas in 2021 if he had just put that guy in and given him the ball.
Oh.
Let Bijan spin. Yeah.
He also, and again, side note, but I'll be quick here. He'd probably be the head coach at Texas in 21 if the most accurate kicker in NFL history makes a 56-yarder against Iowa State. So that there's some, it's pretty funny, right? There's some irony in all of this.
I think the Cameron Dicker career arc is fascinating too, because I remember having conversations in press boxes where there was many people on this beat, at times myself included, that I was like, dude, Cameron Dicker's a better punter than he is a place kicker.
Yeah.
And I think in 21 he was better.
He's like a 63% kicker one year.
Yeah, like that's Justin Tucker is lights out, like the resume, the on-field resume. It's a Hall of Fame resume in the NFL. But man, you start looking at Justin Tucker's college numbers and like they're okay, like they're good, but it's not like he was just automatic nails from everywhere. But the one kick he made in College Station, that carries you through the rest of your life as a Longhorn.
Yeah, kicking strange. The most accurate kicker in college football history was a bust after a year and a half, Roberto Aguayo. So
yeah,
sorry, Matthew.
You had to just stick the knife in and twist it a little bit for producer man. I was given one earlier when I mentioned the Anthony Richardson thing, which I never got. I still don't get it, and I'm not shocked the way that's played out. But yeah, so my extremely long-winded praise of Cedric Benson is just to say, yes, I would, of the two, I would take Bijan on this team and any freaking team for the rest of time. I'm taking 5. I know he's 7 now. He's always going to be 5 to me.
Mm-hmm.
CJ, thanks for the knowledge and expertise tonight, as always, and tonight on this stream. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Our MVP here at OTF, doing the great job he always does. Thanks everybody for the comments and for the super chats. And one more time, thank you to all of our sponsors tonight. Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise, our lead sponsor. Big thank you to Mark Saunders, Allstate, Duck Camp, and Advanced Pain Care. If you got any questions, make sure you direct them to the guys at Coffee and Football first thing tomorrow morning. CJ and I will be back tomorrow night for the Wednesday night live stream. We'll be following the Texas women's game against Vanderbilt. That's a big time game in Nashville tomorrow night. So we'll be following that one here on the channel as we take your questions, comments, and hang out for a little bit. And make sure you get over to ontexasfootball.com. Again, I mentioned that article that Jerry wrote, but we've got all kinds of news notes and nuggets conversation there all the time over at ontexasfootball.com. So if you're not a member over there, get over there and check it out. You will not regret that you did. Plenty of good conversation and, like I said, information over on the website. So for CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time,
Welcome.